I call this meeting of the Rotary Club of Oakland to order. I'm Dudley Thompson, and I have the honor to serve as the president of the Rotary Club of Oakland. We were founded in 1908, and we are the third established club of some 36,000 Rotary clubs in over 200 countries around the world. We're a diverse community of some 270 local business, professional, and community leaders who unite to improve our local community and international communities through a common commitment of service above self. For over 113 years, we've welcomed Rotarians and guests to our club meetings, and I welcome you to this, our 5,388th meeting. If you're a visiting Rotarian or the guest of a Rotarian, please enter your name in the chat box, which is located at the center of the bottom of the screen so that we can recognize you in a few minutes. We recommend that you view today's meeting using speaker view, which is located in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. If you have comments or want to ask a question of the speaker today, please use the chat box. A couple notes before we get started. Next week, and hopefully for a very long time, we will be back to meeting in person at the California Ballroom. Today, we have a 3-minute self-introduction from Eitan Frazier, who joined the club just last week. We'll also hear from George Geary, who will enlighten us on the world of fast food and maybe which French fries stay hot the longest. But today we recognize Memorial Day. In May 1868, General John Logan, a leader of an organization for Northern Civil War veterans, called for a nationwide day of remembrance, the 30th day of May 1868, designed for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet in the land. Since that time, Memorial Day has become a national holiday in which we remember and we mourn those people who have died in the service of our country. Jack McAvoy, would you share with us a thought for the day and the Pledge of Allegiance?
I will do so, Dudley. James Baldwin said, "I love America more than any other country in the world. And exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually." Will everyone please join me on this special day for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Jack. Ed Jellin, are you out there? Do we have any visiting Rotarians or guests today?
Hey, President Dudley, to answer your first question, yes, indeed, I am out here. And in terms of visiting Rotarians and guests, we either have or are expecting a guest of Catherine Coleman, and her name is Diane Williamson. So Diane, if you've joined us, welcome to our meeting. And if you haven't joined us, welcome anyway.
Thank you, Ed. Eitan Frazier. Eitan, am I pronouncing that correctly?
You are.
Good, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You just joined our club last week.
Yeah, and I'm off on a little bit of a holiday for the next few, so I wanted to make sure to do this, before it became a little bit stale. Good afternoon, Rotarians. It feels nice to be able to say that after the many years that I've been admiring this organization from afar. My name is Eitan Frazier. I am going to take these 3 minutes actually to tell a little story about how how Rotary came into view for me, and it might illuminate some things about me as well, is my hope. So the summer of 2009 was my first sort of introduction to the world of nonprofit. I spent 2 months in the Volta region of Ghana doing consulting work for an NGO that was developing critical infrastructure that the government wasn't, I think is the easiest way to put it. They were building schools, they were attracting volunteers from the Western world to donate and then also participate in the building of schools, or staffing orphanages, or staffing hospitals in some cases where you had some skilled volunteers. Our consulting team's mission was to go down there and basically spread awareness for the organization. How can we get more volunteers coming to the Volta region to invest in this community? And part of that involved showing people the good work that they were doing, sharing videos, all the above. And there's a moment that really, well, there's a few moments that really stuck out to me about that time, but one of which for the purposes of this introduction was, I remember walking down, a dirt path, open sewage on the left and right. There's not much infrastructure in this particular region that I was working in. And the only organizational support that you would really see in that area, even when frankly it wasn't much coming from the government, would be the local grassroots organizations like the one that I was working for. And I remember walking down this dirt path, and all of a sudden I see this little white building with a blue spoke wheel on it, and the words Rotary written across it. And again, this is back in 2009. And that image always stuck with me, because it told me that while a large part of the international community doesn't care about this particular place or is not investing in this particular place, Rotary is an organization that is willing to go to those places and actually do work. And I could say that was, obviously over 10 years ago, but that initial experience is what brings me here today. And one other really vivid memory from that trip, or that work experience, was going to a village where they were building a school based on the resources that the nonprofit, which is called ADANU, ADANU, was building. And I just remember the whole community gathering around to help build these schoolhouses for these kids who were currently learning under a tree at the time. You would see grandmothers with babies on their backs, carrying bricks on their head, kind of walking to lay the bricks down while the workers were doing kind of more of the forming of the actual foundation. And to me, that is kind of the embodiment of what this organization is about. It's building that collective power around service. And, a lot of us are professionals. We kind of have reached certain points in our careers where we have the luxury of being able to do this sort of work. And I think that that's kind of the bonus to me, is being surrounded by people who understand that their privilege isn't their own. And that we all owe certain debts to our communities that we're all here to help support. So with that, I'll just end there. Professionally, just to kind of let folks know what I do. I'm a real estate developer. I'm also a real estate broker, and I'm a corporate attorney. And it's just a privilege to be joining the third oldest Rotary organization that's out there, based on the experience that I had and how long I've been following the club. So thank you all for allowing me to introduce myself, and looking forward to meeting all of you.
Eitan, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'd really like to talk with you about Ghana sometime. I was there in 1974 and had some different time, different observations, but I can relate to some of the things you're talking about. The issues are still alive. So thank you, Eitan. We look forward to getting to know you. And folks, next week, what we're really hoping is actually, instead of a speaker, we're going to have 6 or 7 of these 3-minute self-introductions. When we come back live, our hope is that we can meet people that we haven't been having the opportunity to meet eyeball to eyeball, person to person. So please come next week to our meeting. Tom Lamone, we have an A's game coming up. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. We have Boston Red Sox. It's usually one of the hottest series, rivalries in the American League for the A's. We've traditionally had done this game in the past, and it's always been a good turnout. The unfortunate thing is, oftentimes there's more Boston fans than there are A's fans. the A's have been sort of struggling with ticket sales this year, and so that's kind of reflecting in our ability to sell tickets also. There's with the A's considering a move, and it's just it's created a lot of friction, but we've always had a great time. And so that's kind of what I'm counting on, is bringing together Rotarians from other clubs, seeing President Dudley mix it up at the bar, but just having a good time out. I don't go to too many games anymore, but when I do, this is one of the games I really look forward to. So it's happening Sunday, June 5th. We've reduced the price from $100 to $80. If you have any trouble, paying for this price, please reach out to me directly, and we'll work something out. But we would love to have you there, and we don't want the cost to be a barrier for this particular game. So yeah, we would love to have you. And then on Sunday, it's actually August 28th. We need to update the slide, but that's the New York Yankees. So both of these games are in the event calendar. You can go online and purchase your tickets and reserve them ahead of time. And again, we have a very private section. It has its own security person to get in, and it seats about 250 people, but we reserved 100 tickets. And so we have the whole space to ourselves to walk around, and it's right on the field. It's a great time. So thank you, Dudley, for the opportunity to present today.
We really hope that, in fact, the next few things we'll be talking about are the opportunities to get together, both for service and for fellowship, and having the opportunity to come out from these Zoom meetings. And we really hope that people will come out. The tailgate parties are always great. Good time to be with people. We're going to be inviting some folks from the, as Mary's going to talk about in a moment, but the sponsors of this service project that's coming up. We'll be inviting some of those folks to join us from San Francisco and from the Chinatown Chamber. And so please come out. We appreciate your buying a ticket. We need to say, honestly, we need to sell some tickets. So thank you so a lot, Tom. And let's go. We love the A's. They won the last two nights. Sometimes they play really well. And it's, the dilemma has been the management of the A's, but the team is great. Okay. Mary Geong, are you out there?
Yes, I am. So
Can you tell us about our service project this Saturday?
Right, great. We're going to have two service projects for this particular event. It's going to be this Saturday, May 28th in Oakland, Chinatown. As you know, there's been a lot of anti-Asian hate crimes locally and across the nation. And we wanted to do something that will help the seniors, because there seems to be a lot of attacks on seniors and petite people. But that puts me right in their line sight. But so we're going to be trying to get a group of people, and we have collaborative organizations such as the Oakland Chinese Chamber of Commerce, Oakland Rotary Club number 3, Oakland Rotary Club number 2, San Francisco, and Oakland Rotary Club San Francisco Chinatown, and Asian United. All these organizations are coming together to do the safety alarm distribution this Saturday and on June 18th and at the Renaissance Plaza in Oakland. So I'm appealing to my Rotarians to see if you can come and help. We're going to try to distribute 300 safety alarm systems in this Saturday, and then another 300 on June the 18th. And so we're going to provide we're going to have a speaker from the Department of Justice, because we want to raise this issue that is at the national level. We're going to have Oakland Police Department officers around to help answer questions. And our very own Anna Marie Jones is going to do a safety alarm training on how to use this equipment. And then we'll be handing out, and we'll have lanyard with Oakland Rotary logo in it and distribute it to the seniors. So, and I believe PepsiCo company might be donating some water to this worthy event. So Jesse sent out email with a link to register at a club runner. Jesse, could you also put it on the chat so people, I'd like to have at least another 5 to 10 Rotarians to come to either this event or the June 18th event. So please sign up. It's a worthy event. Dudley and I will be there. And I think some other members are coming. So, here's another worthy event to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And we've been really challenged this past year to have service project events. Karen Friedman, of course, has been working with Laney College and the food distribution there, but we had to delay the cleanup of Lake Merritt Gardens. I'll say more about that in a moment. But our organization is about service, and I really encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. Saturday morning, really from 9 to 10 is really the setup, and then we'll be doing the handouts and the program from 10 to 12, and then helping to clean up and put some chairs away and things like that. It's not hard work, but we do need some extra hands and would really encourage you to join us. Thank you very much, Mary. So a few things coming up. First of all, the DE&I survey, you may have been contacted in person, by telephone. You've had several emails sent out. We had a program on it a couple of weeks ago. And so we still need more surveys to be completed. I really appeal to you just to take a few minutes and fill out the survey. Jesse or someone can put that link in in chat, but it's been sent to you several times. Please fill out the survey. It's very important to the future of our club to get some of this information that's part of the survey. As I said before, next week we go back live to the ballroom, and certainly through the rest of June, unless we have another surge. And I'm not predicting COVID these days, but our plan is to be in the ballroom through June. We do have one dark meeting the week of the 4th of July. And then the week after that is Mary's induction. And we're going to celebrate Mary's inauguration as being club president. And of course, my demotion is coming up, and you can all have fun and throw eggs or do whatever it means. Anyway, so A's baseball, you heard about that from Tom. On June 11th are two events. One is a service event, Lake Merritt Gardens cleanup. Please, that's also on the calendar. Please sign up for that. Daniel Chang is organizing that. And if you just want to go off and have some fun, Mark Rosen is organizing kayaking down at Moss Landing at Elkhorn Slough. And we've done that for a few years, haven't done it for the last couple. So please consider getting out and being with other Rotarians. The safety alarm is again the following week. The 21st, business development membership is having a mixer party gathering. Invite friends, invite potential members. It's on Tuesday, June 21st, and it's going to be at the home of Giovanna Tanzio. Robert Kidd is organizing the third leg of the trail walk through Tilden Park, and it's on Sunday, June 24th. And finally, the bowling, the Rotary Kingpins is coming back in July and August. We need 2 or 3 more people on our team. It's really fun. I tell you, if you can just get the ball down the lane. We don't allow using the dinosaur where you roll it down the back, but if you can kind of put it between your legs and get it down the alley, you're good enough for our team. I mean, if you can score 50 to 100, you're probably in the top third of our team. So please, it's great fun. We need a few more people to sign up, get hold of me, or I'll let you know how to do that. But it's just, and we could always use a few substitutes too. All of us can't be there. It's for 6 weeks, starting the beginning of July through the beginning of August. And just to remind you, they still need blood out there. I encourage you to give blood whenever you can. So Robert Kidd, has George come back and are we ready?
George is in the house.
Oh, great.
I'm in the house.
Could you introduce our speaker for the day?
Well, thank you, President Dudley. We welcome from Palm Springs, California, our speaker today, George Geary. George is the author of Made in America, an examination of the fast food phenomenon as it emerged in California in the last century, its impact on American cuisine, and in fact, its impact on world culture. Who'd have thought? So straight from the menu of the Wiener Schnitzel, I invite you to settle in with your triple cheese, double bacon, chili cheese hot dog, and welcome George Geary.
Thank you so much. You know, I have to share my screen, so let's see. This will work. There we go. You can see that okay, right? Yep. All righty. Anyway, I came with this idea. This was I think this is my 15th book. And my very first book without recipes in it too, which was interesting for me. I didn't have recipe testing to do. And the book prior to this is called LA Legendary Restaurants, and that one had recipes in it. So that was a historical book. This is history. I was researching a story for USA Today a number of years ago, and we were looking at, they do these top 10 story lists there. I did one for the top 10 donut stores in America, which got me into a lot of trouble. I got more emails from donut stores that they said, you didn't try ours. And I really wish I wouldn't have done that story, because when you do a story, with USA Today, you had to do one store in every state that was only 10. So I couldn't do 3 in California. So I did 1 in California and a few back east. But then I did save a few donut stores. There was a couple that were going under, and after they were mentioned in the newspaper, I got calls from them. So that was kind of worth it. But I got people sending me donuts after that happened. So what I was doing with Made in California is I was working on what locations, because I knew the original McDonald's wasn't there, but the building kind of was. The original In-N-Out burger had just moved, and I'll talk about that in my presentation. So I came up with this list of over, it was about 60 locations, and then I kept going, that companies had started. And every year, a couple times a year, I go to Purdue University in Indiana to teach food classes. And off of the highway, exit number 172, there's a list of all the places to get gas or motels or hotels, and then places to eat. And I was driving and I saw this list, and there was probably about 18 locations to eat on the next off ramp. And out of the 18, I'd say about 16 were from California. So I knew I had a book. Just to sell it was another story. So here is a little bit about Made in California. Oh, and me. I used to be the pastry chef for the Walt Disney Company for 10 years. And that's when I had gray hair happened afterwards. But 1993 was my last year at Disney. And then I also, those of you that remember the show Golden Girls, I did all the cheesecakes on that show and all the food props. So I worked in the industry of that. And currently, I still do food tours of the south of France. And I just got back last week with our tour that hadn't gotten to go for 2 years. So we used to live in Julia Child's house where she filmed her Good Morning America shows. And we moved from that house to a larger house. So there's our villa that we live in. And it's a little village of Saint, it's called, close to Grasse, all the perfume factories. And one of my highlights of my life so far has been working on Holland America ships for 8 years. I was a guest chef, they called me, but I didn't have to cook, which made no sense. But I would take people on tours of the markets of the various ports, on the world cruises, the grand voyages, things like that. They stopped that program about 3 years ago. But in those years, I saw 118 countries, and every continent I taught at, even Palmer Station down in Antarctica. And my morning shows, I do. I started on a national show, Mike and Maddie, back in the 90s. And today I'm on, we just wrapped up Home and Family. That was on the Hallmark Channel. and I do CBS San Diego is my home station, and then I've got Tampa, NBC, and WGN Chicago. So what's interesting about COVID is I was taping from my home here, and now I'm getting back into the studios, which is very strange. Here's the book. So let's go for it. We've got every location has a little bit of history title page, what it was called, if the name changed, the year it opened, the founders, what's currently at that location today. If you go there, will it still have that location? This is Sonora Cafe that started in 1923. Next year is their 100th anniversary. It's called El Cholo Restaurants now. And they're even expanding even as we speak. They're adding restaurants in Utah, and they have some upscale restaurants. And they're in their 7th generation is running this. So name change for the better, like Sonora. Did these places that changed names, was it better or worse? Saratoga Chips is what Vandy Camp's bakeries were called, and Vandy Camps are no longer around. The book is about 80% the places are still around and 20% of nostalgia. So a lot of history back and forth. Vandy Camps, they had everything from, a lot of younger people know them as their fish sticks and their frozen food lines. But there's an original on the left-hand side, the black and white little bakery that they would have sales at. The one in color is the last building that we can find right now in Los Angeles. That's close to USC. And that is their corporate headquarters and bakery of Southern California. There was also one in Washington State. And I'm really fortunate. I've been talking on Facebook, and I'm friends with one of the former bakers there, and he has all the old formulas. So I've been redoing the formulas into recipes for home use, and I've already finished all the cookies. So if anybody remembers Vandy Camps, it's one of those. My grandmother and my mother worked there, come to think of it. Sonora Cafe, that was the El Cholo, and there's some historical pictures. That changed the name to El Cholo, and there it is, El Cholo now. And then we have Hinky Dinks up by you guys in the Oakland area, and that turned into Trader Vic's. There are still some Trader Vic's left, not a whole lot. There was a lot more years back, but I really think the tiki thing is coming back faster, and I see a lot of new little tiki places opening. This picture was from the Beverly Hilton in Beverly Hills. A lot of the Hilton, the large type of Conrad Hiltons, had Trader Vic's. There is still one at their Atlanta location, but there are some still around, and you've got one up north, and San Jose has one at the airport, a little tiny one to get drinks and appetizers. McDonald's, this building's not there anymore, but it first was called McDonald Brothers Barbecue. And what happened was the two brothers came from back east to get into the film industry, not on camera, but they were behind the scenes, and they didn't really like it. So they bought a theater in Glendora, California, and after they bought it, it went under. But they'd already had usherette uniforms and stuff, so they took the usherette uniforms and used those as car hop uniforms. And the car hops started flirting with the guys in the cars. So then they thought, these guys are not leaving after, and there's a whole, in my story, the rules. You weren't allowed to put the change in the guy's hand. You had to put it on the tray, but you had to wink at them when you walked away to say, thank you, please come back, and my name is so-and-so, and make sure you ask for me. So it was a little bit of a, slyness that they did. So the brothers decided, let's close down the shop and redo it to where everybody has to get out of their car to come up to the window. And that's what happened. And there's our last remaining McDonald's that looks like that. And that is in Downey, California. It's a historical preservated building, which is really nice. This is the only McDonald's that still makes the apple pies the old-fashioned way, which is frying them. The rest of them bake them. They're a lot healthier that way, but I think the frying would be better. and they are. So if you ever are in Downey, stop by. And they do have a drive-through, which did not wreck the building when they did it. You go around the back of the building next to the trash dumpsters. The Blimp was a chain, not really at first. It was a little hot dog stand, and it turned into Carl's Jr. and Carl's Jr. and Hardee's from the East Coast merged, and now they're back in Memphis, I believe, their corporate headquarters. It used to be in Anaheim right off the 91 freeway when Carl Karcher was alive. And Snowbird ice cream. And if you look close at that sign, it says Frozen Foods by Robbins. So what it was this was the beginning of Baskin Robbins. Bert's and Snowbird were two brother-in-laws that had ice cream stores, about 7 of them together. This original location is still there, but it's a Baskin Robbins. It's on Lake Street in Pasadena. This is the largest ice cream company in the world. I've been all over the world and eating. I've had their ice cream. The pralines and cream taste the same everywhere. So, and then we have, here's a Baskin Robbins. The A-frame they used for a short time, the one on the left-hand side, the black and white, is down in Escondido, California. And the pink one is what it looks like today at a different location, but you can see they were pretty close. They did those A-frames, and we'll talk about A-frames in a minute. And this building just got torn down. And I work with the preservation of LA and all the different cities in Southern California to keep these buildings. This was on Muscle Beach. They say it's going to be redone. I've got to get out there because the last month or two it was torn down. I was looking at the plans and they said that they needed to enlarge it for the employees and to make an extra bathroom or something. But I don't think they needed to tear down the whole thing. So I'm kind of worried about it. Most of the hot dogs on a stick are in, and it was first called Party Puffs. Hot dog on the sticks are in malls, and we know what's happening to malls, not good. So I'm not sure what's going on. And the snack shop, this was a chain, it was pretty large at the time, and then they turned it into, and this is in Corona del Mar, the building is now a Ruby's Diner, and it was Coco's. And so Coco's was bought out by a company. And our Big Donut Drive-In. A lot of people have said these places are Southern California heavy. We do have some Northern California, but not as much. It seems like Southern California had the car culture a little bit quicker. And this turned into Randy's Donuts. But before it was Randy's Donuts, there was a lot of these locations. This is today. There's Angel Food Donuts, there's Kindle's, there's Big Donut King 2, but Randy's is what everybody knows of, close to the LAX airport. And Randy's is in Asia now. He has franchised this Lookout. The Big Donut, that's about the only one for Randy's. I was talking to him. He said that a lot of cities won't let them build that anymore. But if you go past Randy's during any sporting events that somebody's winning in Inglewood, California, over by LAX, you'll see Randy's being painted different colors, and it's been in a lot of movies. And Danny's Donuts, there was a company in Northern California called Danny's Coffee back in the 40s and 50s. And when Danny's Donuts came out, they thought people would think it was Dan's Donuts, or Dan's Coffee. So they, after about 2 years, they switched, and this was in Lakewood, California, to Denny's. Now, if you look at that picture of Denny's, the building, let's take off the name Denny's off the building, and there's nothing special about the building. We could turn it into a Carl's Jr. We could turn it into a Coco's. So we'll talk about that in a minute too. These are companies you thought were gone. A&W Root Beer. There's some up north. I stopped at the one on the way up to Napa when I am going up that way over, and it started in Lodi, California. That plaque that is right there is embedded into the cement. The other A&W root beers, there's one in Lodi. They claim to be the #1 store, They have a lot of history in the store and a lot of memorabilia, but that location was not the original location. It's in the middle of downtown, and the plaque proves it. So here's a Orange Julius. This is another one that started in California, Southern California, because of all the oranges. And the Sun-Kissed Orange Company wouldn't sell some of the oranges that were blemished. So Mr. Julius decided to take those off their hands for free, and he created his orange juice drink. There's a original building on the black and white, and the other one has Dairy Queen next to it because it's part of the Warren Buffett portfolio now. And they are in the malls, and it's kind of scary what might happen. Bob's Big Boy. When I do this presentation back east, people think that it started back east. The original was in close to Glendale, in that area. And Toluca Lake, one that has the beautiful architecture, in fact, is right next door to the original building that housed IHOP. So when IHOP started. So, and IHOP started because they saw Bob's Big Boy, the line out the door starting at lunch, and they thought, hey, we should serve something that has breakfast. So that's why IHOP started. But Bob's Big Boy, they're back east. What they did back in the day is they franchised out the product, not the whole company name. So the Bob's Big Boy burger was franchised out. Same thing with Kentucky Fried Chicken. They would franchise the product and how to make it instead of opening up a whole Kentucky Fried Chicken store back in the day. Swinson's Ice Cream, original down in San Francisco. And that's still there. Originally, almost every city had a Swinson's. There's only 3 left in America. Texas, Florida, and this one. Mr. Swinson, I talked with, that's not Mr. Swinson, that was the new owner back when it was sold. Patty Swinson, she lives in Napa, and I got together a couple times with her. And she told me all sorts of different stories, which was great. One is, if you look at that store, it only could have about 6 people in the store itself. It's on a corner, and that's what he felt. If you had 3 people, it looked like it was packed. And when people drive by, they've got to stop. No place to sit. He didn't make banana splits because he thought those took too long. A cone or a cup, that was about it. You could get fudge sauce on it or raspberry sauce. On the left-hand side, and this still is done today at this location, they would make the ice cream. They had the ice cream frozen machine to make it and things like that. When Swinson's was sold, and then it became franchisees, and the corporate offices at the time felt that they could buy all the ice cream from one central location. They could turn their store into a place to have burgers. If it was large enough, it became a grill and a restaurant. And that's what the downfall was. People were not wanting all of that. They wanted really the fresh ice cream. So there are hundreds of Swinsons, but they're all in Asia because Asia really loves Americana stuff. So I've been over there, and it's interesting how they really go towards all the American things. Pioneer Chicken was all over the place, and there's only 2 left, and they're in the Los Angeles area. The Pioneer Chicken was named because the grocery store next door was Pioneer, and it was on Sunset Boulevard. And that is not an old McDonald's. They were trying to, people did interesting buildings, and we'll talk about the buildings in a second. And there's one of them that was, you saw, this one was on Sunset Boulevard, but not the original location. House of Pies, that was a big chain, and they're coming back. There's a 3 in Houston that's an offshoot. There's 1 in Los Angeles. There's going to be 1. The one is being built right now. I've seen the framing over on the west side, close to Santa Monica. But they are the original buildings are still around, and when you see one, you can tell it was a House of Pies because it looked like a little house. And that was one of those buildings that you would see before you got to it. Red Onion was a chain that there's only 1 left, and it's in Palos Verdes Peninsula, and it's owned by the son that started the company, the one on the black and white picture is a picture of the original that only had room for about 12 people. It was more takeout than anything, and that was in Inglewood, California. But Red Onion, they had about 30 locations. They had problems with the ABC laws. They picked the type of clientele they wanted to come into the place. They focused more on alcohol than they did on the food, and it was more of a nightclub for a while. So they started closing. These are still there. That a lot of people at the original location. So if you go in, that is their original location. Dupar's, there's only one left. There was a chain of about 14 of them. Lowry's is at the original location on Restaurant Row in Los Angeles. Pink's Hot Dogs, I didn't realize it was a chain until I started researching this. Pink's Hot Dogs are nationwide, and Mr. and Mrs. Pink are the nicest people you ever met. They were very helpful with historical pictures and stuff that their parents had started the business in 39 on La Brea. There's a line out the door. They're in a lot of amusement parks across the country. Richard Pink, when I was getting together with him having lunch, I said, is there any way that he said, is there anything you need, Alice? And I said, yeah, I need to know how I can get in the front of the line. And he said, George, I can go down there with you, but I'll stand in line with you because nobody takes cuts. So I thought that was great. And Foster's Freeze, that was a chain that was very interesting. And their Inglewood location is still there. Their Hawthorne location was close to where the Beach Boys grew up. And so they wrote a lot of their music sitting on the benches, and they talk about that. Then we have Tommy's Burgers, that is a chain, and the original is downtown LA. Party Puffs, like I said, I might have to take this off of this screen because the original location is not there anymore. Swinson's, we talked about that. Then we have Pete's Coffee in Berkeley, the original location. If you've never been to that location, it's really kind of fun to look at all of their memorabilia that they have. And the original Der Wiener Schnitzel, that's what it was called, that is the building, and it doesn't look anything like the ones we know of the A-frame. And that's in Wilmington, and it has a big plaque. I love plaques because it tells a story that you might not know. Like I said, I just came back from France, and all over Europe, there's plaques. Buildings have plaques, who was there, what happened there. And I'm constantly using my translator to figure out what they are all about. Still there kind of with a building or a plaque. So the building's kind of there, or my plaque that I like. And like I said, A&W Root Beer, that's in Lodi, right in the cement when you walk by. And See's Candy is the only company in this book that makes no sense. It's not a fast food place. There's nothing to it that equals any of the other places. But when I wanted to put it in because their anniversary of 100 years was last year when the book came out. And I talked to my publisher, and she said, George, it's your book. You can put anything you want in it. So this is my different item. That's the original building in black and white. For a while, for about 10 years, it was a Tom and Tom Coffee that is a Korean coffee chain. It closed during COVID. And while I was working on the chapter, they had a grand opening in Norco, California, and I went to it. And the CEO was there, and I started talking to him. And if you ever go to a grand opening, they have the Harley Davidson motorcycle sitting there for you to take pictures. It's kind of neat. It's not the original, but it's a redo of a Harley. And I was telling him about the building was historic, and it had been become a cultural landmark. He did not even know the building was still there. And so I said, it's there, but we don't have a plaque on it. So we got together, and he said, how do we have to get this plaque and go through the city? So I learned a lot about the plaque system and how you do it. And so during COVID, I told him I'd take it on, and I put that plaque, I got that plaque up there on the pole right in front. So when you drive by, it's the first See's Candy Shop and Kitchen. And then, of course, they have one in South San Francisco. and our large plant in LA, close to LAX. And I mentioned McDonald's, the first site is there, the building's there. It's owned by another fast food conglomerate, but they have their corporate offices in there. And there's a lot of history in this building. If you're ever in San Bernardino, stop by, you'll spend a couple hours. It's a museum of everything McDonald's, from every Happy Meal around the world people have donated, to all of the characters, the little like the Hamburglar there, the little toys and stuff like that, and even the malt machines and uniforms and pictures of the original McDonald's are in there. So it's kind of fascinating. Then we have Del Taco. Del Taco was first called Casa Del Taco in '64. The original location is there, but I tell you, take a picture and then leave. Don't eat there. I don't know if they're really serving food. I think people are living in the building, but it's in on the way to in Yermo, on the way out to Las Vegas. And the original owner of Del Taco does own a few of them, and they're in Barstow. So when people think Barstow is where it started, it's not. This is the original Del Taco building. Still there with a replica building, Fat Burgers. Fat Burger is owned by the Fat Corporation now, but Lovey was the owner, and it was first called Mr. Fat Burger. And she was dating a guy that was in the boxing industry, and she called it Mr. Fat Burger until they got kind of like not a divorce, but they stopped seeing each other, so she changed it to just Fat Burger. It was a place for African Americans to eat off of Central Avenue in Los Angeles, where all of the jazz clubs were, late at night, because back then they weren't allowed in different restaurants. And when she passed away, she donated a lot of her money to a hospital and low-income housing. So around where the Fat Burger was, there's low-income housing, you can see in the other picture, and they did a replica building, kind of, but there are some plaques up. But Fat Burger, oh, they're so good. And the French fries, I would say their French fries are some of the best. In-N-Out Burger, everyone knows about them. The original building on the left-hand side is where the freeway goes through. They had to tear it down. So they made a replica a number of years ago, and then they tore that down. They built another replica, and that second replica is sitting close to the largest, one of the larger In-N-Out Burgers off the 10 freeway. And Burger University is there, and their big store, the largest store that they have. And on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, they have little tours, and you can drive your car and put it there. And if you notice and look and see how much room there was not in the original location, but the black and white picture where it says open, that box next to it is cigarettes you could buy. And they use the voice box system. And a lot of stores or locations claim that they invented that. I don't know who did, so I don't say in the book. I don't want people to fight. So these are gone from our memory, a few places. We've got Sambo's. The original building is still there. That's called Chad's now, this in Santa Barbara. Love's Barbecue Pit, those are all gone. The Copper Penny, that was started by the same guy that started IHOP. Bandy Camps are gone. Hamburger Hamlet's gone. Pup and Taco was sold over to the Taco Bell company. And if you go, some Taco Bells you'll still see were old Pup and Tacos. They got rid of a lot of the menu items, and they were able to make the kitchen smaller so they could have some seating inside. Most Pup and Tacos were built and put on corners that was one block off of a major intersection. The rent was cheaper and property was cheaper, and the owner felt that you could see your people would see it and not have to be on right on the intersection. And then we have the famous Brown Derby. There was a chain, and these are iconic buildings. These are the buildings that really make up the places. McDonald's you saw, and the In-N-Out, that's the double drive-through that they don't build anymore, and that didn't have any seating inside. it's interesting that a lot of these places started with, you had to walk up, you had to drive through, and now they're taking up more real estate by letting you seat inside. And then we have Chris and Pitt's Barbecue. He had 18 locations at once, and I think there's only 4 left around. Denny's, remember that location that I said you could take the signs off? Well, this is their original boomerang sign, boomerang building that was called. And if we took that sign off, which some people do, and it's a new company, you know it was a Denny's. That other one you wouldn't have known. Pioneer Chicken was a square box. And what's interesting is the sign of Pioneer Chicken was a little stagecoach. And in fact, in Anaheim, I drove by an old Pioneer Chicken, and the stagecoach is gone, but they have a new plastic sign with another company, but you could tell it was Pioneer Chicken. And then Taco Bell #1, that's called. That one was recently, the past 5 years, because of COVID, it's hard for me to say if it was 3 years or I know it wasn't during COVID, it was prior to COVID. They moved it from their original location. It's now sitting in the parking lot, tarped over in Irvine, California, in Taco Bell's corporate headquarters. And it was brought out and placed in a dirt lot in Tustin, California for the Quentin Tarantino movie, the Hollywood movie he did recently, his last movie. Here's our A-frames, and A-frames aren't built anymore. But what happens is you see the building way before you get to it. And it was a way to advertise. And I don't know why companies stopped doing them. But Der Wiener Schnitzel, there's one that I think is fascinating. He had 15 cents. He had the price in the sign, and he had to keep it at 15 cents for a while. The Puppin Tacos, you see it says Puppin Fries, because when it was sold off to Taco Bell, there were 3 locations in New Mexico that did not want to sell. So they let them keep it, but they had to change the name to something else. It couldn't be Puppin Tacos, so they made it Puppin Fries. 31 flavors, we already saw that. And then IHOP, they don't build them like that. In fact, you go to some IHOPs and they are in strip malls. And I was in Dubai at the largest mall there, and there was one there, which it just doesn't seem right. You need, I feel, an A-frame. I have relatives out of Germany that come to town, and they have to eat at IHOP, and they will not eat at one unless it has the A-frame. So they're picky. My next book coming out, I'm not sure if the picture is going to be the same. We keep changing it, but it comes out in fall. LA Landmarks Restaurants. My original one was called LA Legendary Restaurants. This is a volume 2, but they're changing the name of the title. So I felt that that's how it is. And then Made in California, 1965 to 2012 will be coming out the following year. The book right now only goes to 1965. It finishes off with Pete's Coffee. So we've got the rest of it. There's my website if anybody needs an autographed book or me to send one to somebody. And what was interesting about that picture, I was over at the Academy Awards, not in it, but at the building doing the event. And another guy walked by it with the same exact outfit, but not the bow tie. And so we had to take pictures, and we started laughing. So we became friends on Instagram. So there you go.
Thank you, George. We do have a couple quick questions here.
Okay.
And one was, there was a picture of carnation and carnation ice cream. Was there anything about that, or someone remember having carnation milkshakes that were pretty good?
Yeah, carnation was a dairy, but I'm trying to think of what picture had carnation in it, because I don't have, Carnation was a sponsor out of Disney also when I was there, Carnation Gardens and Carnation. And as soon as the dairy stopped producing, it became, and Carnation did, I don't know if they started in LA. I never thought of that one.
The other one was Casper's hot dogs.
Okay. Now people are going to go through lists of why I didn't. I'm going to tell everybody right now. My list was much longer. I had problems with corporations not wanting to give information, or they didn't know their information. That was one of the biggest things, is I had a lot of places not knowing their history. Take, for instance, See's Candy. He didn't know the original building was still intact. So after that, Pat Ingen, the CEO, he told me, he said, I went over there, the coffee place was still going on. He walked in, he had a coffee, and he said, he looked in and he said, wasn't this a candy place, a C's candy place? You know, he was asking the girl, and they left in 1947, I'd say, around in there. So they were gone. And the gal goes, what's C's candy? And then the other gal walked up and says, oh, that's the candy with the old lady on the box. So he realized at that point their marketing department needed to change. So he brought the marketing department in-house. You'll see a lot more younger C's candy things. They did a roller skating thing, and they do all sorts of different younger, trying to get people realizing what the candy is. So a lot of corporations would give me a little bit of information. In-N-Out was one that they were very guarded, which was fine. I let them read the chapter beforehand. I went with, none of the chapters are going to be scandalous, because my Hollywood restaurant book has some scandal in it, and my next one does too. But it wasn't the place. I want the companies to look at it as a historical part of their history. So it was interesting with In-N-Out. They, if any of you remember, 3 of the family members were killed in a plane crash in Orange County. They were coming in, and the mother that was the person that started the company with her husband, the Snyders, she had been dropped off in the plane earlier in the day. They came from Northern California. They came into Orange County. The plane crashed. It was too close to the back of a larger airplane, so the air flipped their little plane over. And I didn't know how to handle it, because I came to a conclusion. I had to think of what I was doing. If I saw the book in a bookstore, I'd read one chapter because it doesn't take long. And if I read the In-N-Out chapter and didn't talk about the death, people wouldn't trust the book or believe it. So I was talking to the In-N-Out people. I said, I don't know how to handle this, because you guys on your website just say they passed away that year. Nothing about the plane crash. And I didn't want to get into too much detail. So I went ahead and I sent the chapter over to them, and they said it was great. I handled it well. I had to kind of mention it. So that's why some places aren't in the book. The book is very large. It was going to be all 100 locations. And my writing got so large, which to tell every company's story, that there was no way to do it. So we cut it in half. And I, like I said, a few months ago, February, I signed the contract for the second version of it, or second.
Well,
book.
George, we're so glad that you came to join us today. We really appreciate taking time out of your day.
Well, thanks.
This year, we're highlighting the new Rotary area focus, the environment. And in your honor, we're making a donation to the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group, SRAG, toward their focus on biodiversity, sustainable living, pollution, the climate, food systems, and a circular economy. Thank you so much for being a part of our Civic Thursday Club meeting. Ed, I didn't see any bell ringers out there today. Next week, we're going to have a lot of introductions, and we're going to start getting into reintroductions in the next couple of weeks. We got to really help Tom's year out with save your $100, your C notes up for a lot of bell ringing the next 2 or 3 weeks when we come back live. Thank you, Jack McAvoy, for doing our thought for the day and Pledge of Allegiance. Past District Governor Ed Jelen, thank you. Eitan Frazier, thanks for giving us your 3-minute self-introduction, and we really look forward to seeing you in person and talking with you about Ghana in particular and many more things. Tom, we got to sell those tickets. A's, go A's. And Mary Geong, everybody, please consider taking a couple hours out of your day on Saturday and helping us with our safety alarm distribution in Oakland, Chinatown. Robert Kidd, thank you for introducing George. And George, thank you so much for being with us. Peter, thanks for being in the background all day today. You're the greatest. I want to thank everyone for joining us today.
We have a bell ringer from Joycey
Oh.
Mack.
Okay, Joycey, and what, help me, I didn't see it there. What's it for, Joycey? Ring bell, okay. Well, we'll let you give somebody an honor there then. Thank you. And do the survey. Greg Knight put the link to the DE&I survey in the,
And
so.
Isaac
okay,
Coast Reed rings the bell also.
Okay,
And then-
I'll keep
Dudley.
this meeting open, $100 at a time.
I
Isaac,
promise,
thank you.
I promise to be super quick, but I want to ring the bell for Kimberly Miller and Fairyland for an amazing event last night. Rotary was mentioned at least 3 or 4 or 5 times as being a huge player in making Fairyland such a wonderful place that it is. So for Fairyland and for CJ and for Kimberly, thank you so much. It was a great event.
Thank you, Isaac. And everyone, I have not really talked about the gala yet. We came back the following week and had a DE&I meeting. I was going to wait until we came back live, but really thanks to everybody who put on the gala. We raised more than we've ever raised before. I think we're going to come out around $130,000 net, which is like 40,000 more than we've ever done for a gala before, and also the ORE campaign. But I'll bring Kimberly and Tricia and Carrie back, and we'll talk about that in the next meetings. Okay, everybody. Again, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Remember, we are Rotary, serve to change lives, and don't keep Rotary a secret. This meeting is adjourned. And I'll have a better bell next week.
Mary, I already reached out to Dalin about Saturday, and he said he's going to send a camera and hopefully a reporter.
Thank you. I think the publicity will be good. So if I would love to see him himself.